Today we will be talking about the legislative and organization policies for India. We are almost coming towards the end of the lectures in our course. We have been discussing about a lot of places, lot of aspects. The next two lectures we will talk basically to see what is happening in the Indian situation with a special focus on the legislative and organization policies. And also later on we also talk about the voluntary organization and NGOs. So, let us see, it is almost a summing up. Let us see, when we talk about the heritage conservation, there are broadly two types of two categories. One is the monument, another is the heritage sites. So, if you take Delhi for example, Delhi the monuments are the Red Fort and Humayun's tombs and many other. They are ASI protected, Archaeological Survey of India protected. And also the heritage sites, Rashtrapati Bhavan, which is the north block and south block, which we call the central vista, and the example of Lutyens' planning, and the Connaught Place, which is also a heritage site. These are actually not monuments, these are the heritage sites. So, now the question is who looks after them and what are being done to conserve this area, if at all the conservation is necessary. Now, let us see what are the agencies who are responsible in the Indian scenario to take care of the heritage structure and historic areas. The monuments are protected by, like the Red Fort and Humayun's tomb and other, they are protected by Archaeological Survey of India, ASI. But these are also the state government archaeological department, and they are both governed by a particular law, which will come to that. And the heritage sites and historic areas, they are basically taken care by the Town and Country Planning Organization, or TCPO. This is within under the Ministry of Urban Development, whereas Archaeological Survey of India under the Ministry of Culture. State archaeology are the respective state departments. Recently, in 2010, due to an amendment, and 2011, we have seen a new agency is coming up, which is the National Monument Authority, or NMA, and that is under the Ministry of Culture. We have discussed about that, the jurisdiction of NMA. We will also touch on that today. But in addition to that, there are some non-governmental organization and the voluntary agencies, which also are playing a very important role when you talk about the heritage conservation and preservation. And most important of that is the Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage, or INTAC. But the challenge is that even though this is, they will talk about broadly this is the structure, the challenge is that how conserving our historic areas and at the same time planning and development of our cities, towns, settlements and region. So, this is on one side we are talking about conservation and preservation, not of monuments only, but also the historic sites and area. At the same time, so we are talking about the development, and as we can see that there are various ministries and various levels of organization are involved in that. Now, let us talk about Archaeological Survey of India. Archaeological Survey of India was founded in 1861 in the British Indian Empire, now a Government of India Ministry of Culture organization. Archaeological Survey of India is responsible for the archaeological research and the conservation and preservation of cultural monuments in the country, which are listed under ASI, and whenever you go to a ASI protected site, you will see a blue board where it is written, where it's always written that it's a protected site and other, because it is under an act, a law that it has been, they are protected. Now, ASI also, because we have a huge country and a lot of heritage from the different areas, ASI, though the head office is in Delhi, but it is divided into circles and each headed by a superintendent archaeologist or in the various regions of India. Now, and under that also there are various local divisions. ASI administers more than 3,650 ancient monuments, archaeological sites and remains of national important. So, whichever monument or sites or precincts are there under ASI, they are considered as they are of national importance. This can include everything from temples, mosques, churches, tombs and cemeteries to palaces, forts, step wells and rock cut caves. State government archaeological developments also are responsible for some of them, but they are of importance at the state level. Now, these either they are taken care of by the ASI or they are taken care of by the State Archaeological Department. They are governed by AMSAR Act. The provisions of the AMSAR Act and the Ancient Monument and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act 1958, which was further amended in 2010, the Ancient Monument and Archaeological Sites and Remains Amendment and Validation Act 2010. Now, I am saying that it is a concurrent act. What is a concurrent act? According to the Indian our constitution, there are certain acts which are applicable both at the national level and at the state level, the state. So, the state archaeology they also follow this act, but they take care of the monument structures and sites which are of the state importance, and they are under the respective state department, and as we call the state archaeology. Now, let us see, this is a structure. We talked about the National Monument Authority, which when it came, and National Monument Authority came because of the validation of that. Now, let us see as an example, this is the Archaeological Survey of India, which takes care of the nationally protected monument. And let us see one, because of this Amendment Act, this one, this is a protected site and area. So, this is the boundary of this protected site. It will be taken care by the Archaeological Survey of India if it is a nationally protected monument. Now, due to this new amendment of the act, the National Monument Authority, which is under also the Ministry of Culture, they are supposed to take care of that what is the type of development which is happening into the regulated area. Now, 100 meter around the protected area is the prohibited area, that means no new development can come according to this act, and the regulated area is further 200 meter. Now, this is something which has to be understood very clearly, because we are talking about more than 3000 structures and sites all over the India, and they are either in the cities or rural areas and under the ASI. Now, development of these in the regulated area, the act says that it should be governed or seen by a competent authority, which will be under the state, but it has to be under the jurisdiction of National Monument Authority under Ministry of Culture, which is at a national level. Why this happened? Because the land, that land which you are talking about of the regulated area and also the prohibited area, it is not under ASI, it is not under center. They are the areas which may be the vacant site, it may be the living areas, but this is the jurisdiction of the state. So, the state, the competent authority which has to be formed, it is case specific, under the state, they will work in collaboration or in together with the National Monument Authority to approve that what type of development can come up there. And also the act says that for each and every site of the protected area, there has to be a special bylaws which has to be framed, heritage bylaws and regulation for each of the monument. And this is a sort of a new since 2011 new act which has come to take care of not the monument or the, it is office setting, that what type of development can be there. So, it is regulated, it is not saying that it is no development, but it is saying that it is a regulated development. So, this is something which is in collaboration with both the nation, the National Monument Authority and the competent authority, which is the state level thing. Now, when we are talking about, so there is one which is the monument which is clearly under the ASI or under the state archaeology if it is the state importance, and we are talking about the heritage site. Let us see, there can be so many different types of heritage sites. For example, the Raj Bhavan in Kolkata, or Maidan in Kolkata, or Churungi in Kolkata, which is a spine. Maidan is a green area. Raj Bhavan is again a structure, very important structure, or the fort area in Mumbai, or the Marine Drive in Mumbai, which is also known as the Queen's Necklace because of its streetscape, or the Marina Beach in Chennai, and we can go on and on. These are all heritage sites, they are not monuments. Now, why they are heritage sites and why they are important? Because as you can see in the Churungi of Calcutta, that it had a character and significance. Some of these is still remaining, it has a distinct identity. Or if you talk about fort, or if you talk about Marine Drive, you see the Queen's Necklace, there is a particular streetscape, or there are certain heritage structures which is defining a precinct or a significant characteristics of that area. So, we are not talking about monument, we are talking about the sites. So, who takes care of these sites which are not monuments? They are living areas, they may be the green areas or open areas. So, what is the act? How it should be preserved if there is a significant characteristics? But in addition also, in addition to the built heritage or townscape or streetscape, there are also natural heritage sites like backwater in Kerala, or Ranikhet, the terrace cultivation which is happening, or in Landour, the city, Sundarban, which is the particular type species of the tree and the flora and fauna, Matharan and sand dunes in Rajasthan. Each one is, they do not have, or they may have some settlement, but the natural heritage sites are very important. And we are talking about these sites which are of significance for our heritage. And so, why then, if there is an act and we are talking about monuments and sites, we have to understand that why heritage legislation or regulation is necessary. Because without heritage legislation or heritage regulations, there can be no permanent preservation. Monuments can be preserved under the ASI Act, Amritsar Act, either at the state level or the national level, but without the heritage legislation or regulation, there can be no permanent preservation of these heritage sites. Let us see some of the restoration projects I am talking about, which is outside the purview of the ASI or state archaeology. For example, the St. James Church in Delhi is a very old structure, very important structure. It was in a dilapidated condition, and now it has been preserved, as you can see it very well. And it has been done not by ASI or not by state archaeology, but with the help of INTAC, which we will talk about, that which is a non-governmental organization. Or let us say the Mehrangarh Fort in Jodhpur. It has been beautifully preserved, restored, and it is being used, adaptively used, and the tourist places. Talk about Prinsep Ghat in Calcutta. None of these are ASI or state archaeological protected. The Prinsep Ghat in Calcutta is a very important structure, and it has been restored under the patronage of INTAC. I am emotionally attached to that because that was my first restoration project way back in 90s. It was in a very dilapidated condition, and it has a lot of association values and architectural heritage, and now it has been beautifully preserved. It is maintained, people visit that area, and so these are the structures we are talking about, which are heritage sites. So, restoration, why we need that heritage regulation in the larger picture? Because restoration preserves only a few sites under the act, but other sites in the historical cities and areas and outside are not protected by the law, and they need preservation. And that is why we are talking about why and what type of laws we are there to take care of these larger resources what we have. Now, let us talk about why in the heritage regulation or legislation, it saves hundreds if not thousands of buildings. It cannot restore a building, but they can prevent the biggest threat to the physical heritage, namely demolition. I have talked about the Kenilworth Hotel, which has happened very recently in Calcutta, a heritage structure, a created heritage, listed heritage structure. It was first the demoted in terms of its grading, and it is being now demolished. So, we are talking about these vast resources which comprise the majority of our areas, cities and the places, and which constitute the significance and the identity of places. We are talking about this side, and what are the heritage regulation or legislation are there in India. Talking about even the Kenilworth Hotel, let us see why it is important. It is just a 2 or 3 story structure. It's the reported, the newspaper said it's an end of a journey, because it was also known as the Purdy Mansion. It was a masterpiece of architecture. It a lot of people, important people, dignitaries, they have been visiting that area. So, it was an important, not only architecturally, but important association with the history of the Calcutta. Now, this couldn't be prevented, and this prevention, of course, there are other stories of how, why, and it happened because of the delisting, but this is something which is happening again and again in all over India, and this demolition, this can be prevented only with the heritage regulations and legislation, which is not possible by the Amritsar Act. Let us talk about another example. I am from this region, so I know more about that, but it is a situation all over India. Like if you see that a beautiful Senate House in Calcutta, University of Calcutta, it is a neoclassical architecture. In 1957, that Senate Hall is being demolished, and then the centenary year, a new centenary building has come up, and we lost a very important classical, neoclassical building from that area, because it has given rise, and these doesn't have any character. It maybe it has more places, more space in terms of area and other thing, but it has totally wiped out a particular landmark from the face of Calcutta. As I said, that it happens in all over India. I have just chosen a few examples, like the Nazarbagh Palace, situated near the old city of Baroda. It was demolished in 2014. The historic headquarters of the Bini Limited in Chennai is being razed in 2017, a beautiful structure. It was very important in the industrial connection of the place, and it has been demolished to give make place for a new development, a high rise structures and other things. The story is everywhere. Now, in most cases, as we say, that they are not protected, they cannot be protected by the Amritsar Act, because they are not monument or protected under the ASI list, and it is not necessary also. In most cases, the legislation or bill or an act which requires going to the legislator is not required for heritage conservation. Generally, we do not need another heritage regulation or for protecting, preserving or taking care of these type of structures. Heritage regulation can generally be enacted under the existing town and country planning law, which is under the Ministry of Urban Development, as in the case of Mumbai, Hyderabad, Nagpur, Pune, Mahabaleshwar, Delhi, Gandhinagar, Ahmedabad, Bhubaneswar, and there may be Punjab. They have also taken under this town and country planning laws. These states or these places or cities have provided a new law or regulations under the Town and Country Planning Act or law. Now, what we have to remember, that this is the purview of the state government, because we are talking about the land and the structures which comes under jurisdiction or purview of the respective state government. Under this law, the existing town and country planning law, there is a provision that one can designate a special areas, and these special areas can be for various reasons. It can be a heritage area, there can be a area of a special significance value, an area of an environmental value, it can be a slum area or of some special environmental or other hazards. So, there is a provision in the existing town and country planning law to take care of the special zone, and under this special zones or by designating a special zone, one can give a various provision. One can take care of the height, one can take care of the FAR, one take up the color, facade treatments. So, there is a provision in the existing town and country planning law to designate an area or a precinct as a spatial zone and to devise or to formulate a spatial regulation under for those spatial areas. Now, let us talk about that what has been done, and in this case Mumbai has really played a very pioneering role. They introduced a landmark law in 1990s identifying and protecting heritage in the city. And in Mumbai also there are a lot of structures which are under ASI, Archaeological Survey of India. They are state protected, but these landmark law which Mumbai did under the Town and Country Planning Act is something which played a very pioneering role in the field of heritage conservation. It is the country's first urban heritage rule which looked beyond the grand buildings or to neighborhoods or precincts. For example, this Kotachi Wadi in Girgaon, I do not know, I am pronouncing Kotachi Wadi in Girgaon, which is a particular neighborhood. As you can see that just outside there the multi-story structures, high-rise structures have come up, or 1920s built Dadar Parsi colony. They are of different types, there are many more, and these are of a special character and a special heritage zone, and which we call the first cluster or a neighborhood which is looking beyond the grand building. This is a combination of normal structures, but which have some significance. They can be the clusters of buildings and spaces that had unique sense of place, reflecting a historical aesthetics or a way of life. Now, for this under this law or the regulation under the Town and Country Planning Act which Mumbai did, what is important is the listing, and this listing has to be a statutory listing. A building being listed as a, now one has to understand that when a building, because these are most of the time they are private properties, and the owners they are very suspicious, apprehensive that if their building is listed, that what will be the outcome of that. And one has to understand that a building being listed as a heritage building does not imply that it cannot be used, that it cannot be altered, that its ownership change, or that it cannot be sold or leased out. All of these are possible under this provision of listing. For example, St. Joseph Convent in Mumbai, a grade 2B, it was recently upgraded to grade 2B because of its condition and the maintenance. It is a school which is in use, and this is a listed structure. There are many more. Now, heritage regulations for Greater Bombay came into force on 1st June 1995 under the Town and Country Planning Act. There were initially 574 buildings, including several forts, 14 milestone and 18 precincts, including some open spaces listed in Greater Bombay. And this listing is very important. It has to be a statutory and published in the Gazette under different categories. I remember I have discussed the grading in another lecture. The list is a register recording the finest of Bombay's buildings and precincts. So, as I say, we discussed Banganga. So, there can be a precinct, there can be a group of building, there can be a streetscape, there can be a road along with the building. So, there can be a different possibilities. They include individual buildings, maidans, milestones and a group of buildings within a precincts. Not all the items are listed are as beautiful and attractive. This has to be remembered that aesthetic is not the only criteria for listing. There can be many other reasons when we have talked about. Some are included purely for historical value or because of their association with peoples and events. Because a lot of time people come and say, this is not a beautiful building, why it is a heritage thing. So, one has to prepare a statement while the listing that with the state of preservation documentation is very important. First of all, why, what is the significance of the structure precinct, that has to be very clearly mentioned while doing the inventory and putting it as a case for listing. Now, again I am saying the inclusion of a heritage building in the heritage list does not mean that development is not permitted, because this is a concern for the owners that if it is a listed a heritage structure that there cannot be development. That is not true. It only means that an expert interdisciplinary group determines what suitable development is allowed within the framework of heritage regulations of 1995, in this case of Mumbai. So, what it is saying that if there is something of a special character, special patent, and it can be of varied type, and there has to be a special bylaws or regulations for that particular area depending on the significance, and there has to be a suitable development for that area which will continue this to be used to be developed, but it cannot be done in an ad hoc manner with any developer who is coming and designing that. There has to be a special framework of heritage regulations, and which has to be done by an expert of interdisciplinary group, and that is also specified in the regulation that what is that committee and who are the members who can be the members of this committee. And then also there is an empanelment of the architects and the engineers who can take care of such structure pressings and other, because it needs an expertise, and the combination of that multidisciplinary group is also historian, landscape architect, conservation architect, planner, and depending on a particular structure the people can be invited. So, there is a special committee which has to take care of such structures. For example, this is a Parsi Trust which has been restored. This is a residential area, it has not been demolished. There was a threat because it was a trust property. So, it was saved, and it was and the cost for restoration, preservation or development, or I won't say development, the maintenance and the repair was very less, and it got an UNESCO award. This is the Kama building, and the people are very happy living there, but this now are becoming more and more rare because most of them are being demolished in the name of development to give space to the high rise structures. Now, also we must understand just listing is not important. One has to also talk about the grading. I have discussed about the grading, the grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and what are the significance of that, what are the implications of the grade, what is the objective of that grade, and what type of permission is required for that, and that has to be clearly specified in Mumbai regulation. It has been clearly specified. The grade 2A status, the buildings of regional or local importance with special architectural features or aesthetics be accorded setting up a heritage streetscape. So, if it is a streetscape value, so that has to be maintained. For example, the Mahalakshmi temple precinct, in that this is one of the precinct in Mumbai, and there are many more like which is there in Mumbai, and each has its own character, value and significance. So, any new development, anything which has to be done according to the special regulation or format under this framework which can be done, and it has to be a statutory one. Now, what we see is that in spite of this pioneering effort by Mumbai having the heritage regulation under the Town and Country Planning Act, but this is a reporting on 2006 November 5th, the Mumbai heritage precinct lose protective cover set for high rise development. 2017 report is saying heritage precincts shrink by 50% in 20 years. The city's new development draft permits grade 3 heritage structures and precincts to be redeveloped up to 10 stories instead of the earlier 24 meters without any special permission from the commissioner happening. And as a result, the Hindu colony, the Parsi colony and BDD Chawal, which were once declared and enlisted as a heritage precinct, they are all losing their most of them, many of them, and a significant amount of them are losing and giving into the pressure of the development, which is an unsympathetic development. There was nowhere it was said that no development can happen, but what is of concern is the height has been changing, the type of development is coming. It is not only destroying the physical structure, but it is also impacting the socio-economic fabric, the community structure of that area, and that is of great concern. And in spite of the heritage regulation, why it is being done? Because it is on the state, and the state department are trying to delisting or allowing the different types of development happen. And what is the issues? They are the lack of incentives. This is one of the issue, the incentives for repair of conservation, incentives like a repair fund, exemption from the property taxes, exemption of parking, balcony and setback norms to allow the reconstruction to harmonize with an older streetscape. So, the incentives has to be there. Special incentive if we are talking about a development and trying to preserve those area, and they has to be case wise, specific wise, that these type of incentives, the residents who own the houses, they must get some benefit out of that. The only existing is the TDR, the transfer of development right, which grants compensatory development rights in another part of the city that which can be sold as a share. So, these was in effect TDR as a part of the Mumbai Heritage Regulation, and it is a sort of an instrument which was. But now, when we take that one time we are talking about this area FSI of 1.33, and at the same time we are allowing an FSI of 3 in that area. That means it is encouraging demolishing of the structures and changing of that. So, on one hand we have to talk about incentives, another hand we have to talk about disincentives, that these areas should not allow more FSI, and if that happens they will be under a great threat or pressure of demolition. And this incentive disincentive has to be taken care of together to what is permitted and what is not permitted. So, there are certain recommendations for Mumbai based on these experience. In our next lecture, we will continue with that based on the experience of Mumbai, which really has played a very pioneering role, that what were the recommendations and what needed to be done, because there is a strong conservation, a lot of agencies are working, conservation architects, a different advocacy group, and they are talking about and they are realizing that and propagating, recommending that what can be the way forward for this heritage precinct. So, we will continue in our next lecture with the case of heritage regulation within Mumbai and what were the recommendation, and then we will see a larger picture of overall India. Thank you.